The vast emptiness of space stretched out before the Galactic Empire's scout ship, the Stargazer. Captain Zorn, a tall blue-skinned alien with 4 arms, stood on the bridge. His large, dark eyes scanned the sea of stars before him. For years, the Empire had been expanding its reach across the galaxy. They had conquered countless worlds, but they always hungered for more. "Sir, we're picking up signals from an unexplored sector," said Lieutenant Vex, her tentacles moving quickly over the control panel. Zorn's antenna twitched with interest. "Show me," he commanded. A holographic map appeared in the center of the bridge. It showed a small blue planet orbiting a yellow star. Zorn studied it carefully. The planet was mostly covered in water, with large landmasses spread across its surface. "Interesting," Zorn muttered. "Any signs of intelligent life?" Vex nodded, her eye stalks bobbing. "Yes, sir. We're detecting large concentrations of artificial structures and energy emissions. It appears to be a technologically advanced civilization." A sly smile spread across Zorn's face. "Excellent. Let's take a closer look." The Stargazer moved silently through space, approaching the blue planet. As they got closer, they began to intercept transmissions from the surface. Strange languages and images filled their screens. "Sir, I've analyzed their technology," reported Officer Krell, his mechanical arms clicking as he worked. "They have achieved spaceflight, but it's limited to their own solar system. Their weapons are primitive compared to ours." Zorn's eyes gleamed with excitement. "An easy target," he said. "The Emperor will be pleased." For the next few days, the Stargazer orbited the planet, carefully staying out of sight of its inhabitants. They watched and listened, learning everything they could about this new world. They saw great cities sprawling across the continents, vehicles moving on roads and through the air. They intercepted broadcasts of entertainment, news, and information. They observed the planet's militaries, studying their weapons and tactics. "These creatures call themselves humans," Vex reported. "And they call their planet Earth." Zorn nodded, taking in all the information. "What about their defenses? Could they pose any threat to us?" Krell shook his head, his metallic body gleaming in the dim light of the bridge. "Negative, sir. Their most powerful weapons are nuclear devices, but they're no match for our shields. Their space presence is minimal, a few satellites and a small station in low orbit." "Perfect," Zorn said, rubbing his hands together. "Prepare a full report for the Emperor. I want details on their resources, population centers, and military capabilities." As the crew worked, Zorn stared at the blue planet on the view screen. He imagined how easy it would be to conquer, the glory it would bring him, the riches they would plunder. Little did he know, the humans of Earth were not as helpless as they appeared. Days later, in the grand throne room of the Imperial Palace, Emperor Xaxon received the report. His massive form, covered in golden scales, sat upon a throne made from the bones of conquered species. "A new world, ripe for the taking," he growled, his voice like thunder. "And you're certain they pose no threat?" "None at all, Your Majesty," Zorn replied, bowing low. "They are technologically inferior and have no knowledge of our existence." Emperor Xaxon's laugh echoed through the chamber. "Excellent work, Captain. You shall be rewarded for this discovery." The Emperor turned to his war council. "Prepare the invasion fleet," he commanded. "We shall add this Earth to our empire. Their resources will fuel our expansion, and their people will serve as slaves." As the council rushed to obey, Xaxon's eyes glowed with cruel anticipation. Soon, he thought, another world would fall before the might of the Galactic Empire. But on Earth, oblivious to the approaching danger, humanity continued its daily life. In observatories and listening stations around the world, a few scientists noticed strange signals from deep space. They didn't know it yet, but humanity was about to face its greatest challenge. The stage was set. The Galactic Empire had Earth in its sights, but they were about to learn that appearances can be deceiving, and that humanity was capable of more than they could possibly imagine. Dr. Sarah Chen yawned as she stared at her computer screen. It was 3 a.m. at the SETI Institute in California, and she was on the night shift. For years, she had searched the stars for signs of alien life. Tonight seemed like any other quiet night. Suddenly, a loud beep from her computer made her jump. Her eyes widened as she looked at the screen. Strange signals were coming from deep space. "This can't be right," she muttered, adjusting her glasses. But the more she looked, the more certain she became. These weren't random space noises. They were structured, complex, alien. With shaking hands, she picked up the phone. "Director Williams, you need to see this. Now." Within hours, observatories around the world confirmed Dr. Chen's discovery. The signals were real, and they were getting stronger. News spread quickly, and soon the whole world was buzzing with excitement and fear. In Washington, D.C., President Emily Johnson sat in the Oval Office, surrounded by her top advisors. Her face was grave as she listened to the reports. "Madam President," said General Mark Thompson, "we believe these signals are coming from a large group of objects moving towards Earth. They'll reach us in less than a week." President Johnson's eyes narrowed. "Are they hostile?" "We don't know," replied Dr. Alex Patel, the chief scientist. "But given their speed and numbers, we have to assume they're not just here to say hello." The president nodded. "Alert all our allies. I want every military on high alert. And call for an emergency UN meeting. The world needs to stand together on this." As world leaders gathered at the United Nations in New York, panic began to spread among the public. Social media was flooded with theories and fears. Some people stocked up on supplies, while others partied like it was the end of the world. In London, 15-year-old Zara Malik watched the news with her family. "Do you think they'll be friendly, Dad?" she asked, her voice a mix of fear and excitement. Her father, Dr. Malik, a renowned physicist, shook his head. "I don't know, sweetheart. But whatever happens, we'll face it together." At the UN, heated debates raged. Some nations wanted to send a peaceful message to the aliens. Others argued for showing strength. "We can't appear weak," shouted the Russian representative. "But we can't provoke them either," countered the Canadian diplomat. As they argued, scientists around the world worked tirelessly. They analyzed the alien signals, trying to decipher their meaning. Military leaders reviewed their defenses, knowing they might be humanity's last hope. In a secret underground lab in Tokyo, Dr. Hiroshi Tanaka worked on a project few knew about. It was Earth's ace in the hole, a defense system beyond anything the public could imagine. "Just a little more time," he whispered to himself. "We just need a little more time." 5 days after the discovery, the alien fleet entered the solar system. Massive ships, unlike anything humans had ever seen, appeared on every telescope and radar. In mission control at NASA, technicians watched in awe as the alien armada approached. "My God," whispered one. "There must be thousands of them." The tension around the world reached its peak. Military forces stood ready. Prayer services were held in every city. Families huddled together, waiting for news. Then, suddenly, every TV, radio, and phone on Earth crackled with a new signal. The deep, inhuman voice spoke in perfect English. "People of Earth, we are the Galactic Empire. Your planet is now under our control. Surrender peacefully, and you may live as our subjects. Resist, and you will be destroyed. You have one Earth day to decide." Silence fell across the world as the message ended. In the White House Situation Room, President Johnson looked at her advisors. Her voice was steady as she spoke. "Well, ladies and gentlemen, it seems humanity has a choice to make. But I think we all know there's only one answer we can give." She turned to General Thompson. "Activate all our defenses and get me a line to the UN. It's time to show these aliens what humans are made of." As the world prepared for the fight of its life, no one knew that Earth had a few surprises of its own. The aliens were about to learn that conquering humanity wouldn't be as easy as they thought. The sky turned dark as thousands of alien ships entered Earth's orbit. Their massive forms blocked out the sun, casting long shadows over the cities below. People everywhere stared up in fear and awe. On the bridge of the Imperial flagship, Emperor Saxon smiled wickedly. His golden scales gleamed in the dim light as he turned to Captain Zorn. "Show me the puny leaders of this world," he growled. In the United Nations building in New York, world leaders gathered for an emergency session. The room was tense as they waited for the alien transmission. Suddenly, a giant hologram appeared in the center of the room. Emperor Saxon's massive form towered over them, his eyes glowing with cruel amusement. "Greetings, insects," he boomed. "I am Emperor Saxon of the Galactic Empire. Your planet is now ours." President Emily Johnson of the United States stood up, her face determined. "We are not insects, and this planet is not yours," she said firmly. "We demand that you leave immediately." Saxon laughed, the sound like rolling thunder. "Brave words from such a small creature, but you have no choice. Surrender now, and we may let some of you live as our slaves. Resist, and we will crush you completely." The Chinese president spoke next. "We are not afraid of you. Humanity will fight with everything we have." "Everything you have?" Saxon sneered. "Your weapons are toys to us. Your technology is primitive. You have nothing that can harm us." As the emperor spoke, military bases around the world prepared for battle. Soldiers said goodbye to their families, knowing they might never see them again. In a small town in Brazil, Maria hugged her son tightly. "Be brave, João," she whispered. "The whole world is fighting together." Back in the UN, the debate raged on. Some leaders wanted to try negotiating with the aliens. Others insisted on immediate military action. "We can't just give up our planet," shouted the Indian Prime Minister. "But how can we fight such advanced technology?" asked the German Chancellor. As they argued, scientists and military experts worked frantically behind the scenes. They analyzed the alien ships, looking for any weakness. Dr. Hiroshi Tanaka in Tokyo sent an urgent message to world leaders. "Our secret weapon is almost ready," he wrote. "We just need a little more time." Emperor Saxon's patience was wearing thin. "Enough talk," he growled. "You have 1 hour to surrender, or we start destroying your cities." To demonstrate his power, Saxon ordered a single shot fired at the moon. A beam of energy shot out from his ship, leaving a massive crater on the lunar surface. Everyone on Earth could see it with the naked eye. Panic spread across the globe. In New York, people ran through the streets, trying to find shelter. In Tokyo, families huddled in subway stations. In Cairo, crowds gathered in mosques to pray. But not everyone gave in to fear. In London, a group of teenagers started an online movement, #EarthUnited. "We're all in this together," they posted. "Stay strong, stay united." The message spread like wildfire. Millions of people around the world joined in, sharing messages of hope and defiance. In the White House Situation Room, President Johnson looked at her advisors. "What are our options?" she asked. General Thompson shook his head. "Our most powerful weapons would be useless against their shields. A direct attack would be suicide." "But we can't just give up," said Dr. Alex Pottle. "There must be something we can do." Suddenly, a young lieutenant burst into the room. "Madam President," he said breathlessly, "you need to see this." He handed her a tablet. On it was a message from an unknown source, detailing a plan so crazy it just might work. President Johnson's eyes widened as she read. She looked up at her team, a glimmer of hope in her eyes. "Get me the UN," she said. "I think we have our answer." As the hour of the Emperor's ultimatum ticked down, humanity prepared to make its stand. They might be outgunned and outnumbered, but they weren't beaten yet. In his ship, Emperor Saxon waited impatiently. He was sure these primitive humans would surrender. He had no idea that Earth was about to give him the surprise of his life. The world held its breath as the deadline approached. In homes, offices, and shelters across the globe, people huddled around screens, waiting for news. In the United Nations building, world leaders gathered one last time. The room was tense, filled with whispers and worried glances. President Emily Johnson of the United States stood up, her face determined. "We've all seen the plan," she said. "It's risky, but it's our best chance. Are we all in agreement?" One by one, the leaders nodded. Some looked scared, others resolute. But they all knew this was humanity's only hope. As the clock ticked down, a single message was broadcast to every screen on Earth. It showed a diverse group of people, a farmer from India, a teacher from Brazil, a student from China, and others from around the world. "Stay calm," they said in their own languages. "Stay united. We have a plan." In his massive ship, Emperor Saxon grinned wickedly as the deadline arrived. "Open a channel to the humans," he commanded. "It's time to hear their surrender." But instead of the UN, a different face appeared on the screen. It was Dr. Sarah Chen, the scientist who had first detected the alien signals. "Greetings, Emperor Saxon," she said, her voice calm and steady. "I speak for Earth." Saxon frowned, caught off guard by this unexpected spokesperson. "Where are your leaders?" he demanded. "They're busy," Sarah replied with a small smile. "But I have a message for you." She took a deep breath, then spoke clearly and firmly. "Leave now or face extinction." For a moment, there was silence. Then Saxon burst out laughing. "Extinction," he roared. "You dare threaten us? You have no weapons that can harm us." Sarah's expression didn't change. "This is not a threat. It's a warning. You have 1 hour to leave our solar system." Saxon's laughter died. His eyes narrowed as he studied the human on his screen. "You're bluffing," he growled. "Maybe," Sarah replied. "But are you willing to take that chance?" With that, the transmission cut off. Saxon roared in fury, smashing his fist into his throne. "Destroy their largest city," he commanded. "Show them the price of defiance." On Earth, people watched in horror as a massive alien ship positioned itself over New York City. A giant weapon began to glow at its base. But before it could fire, something unexpected happened. A beam of energy shot up from Central Park, enveloping the alien ship in a strange, shimmering field. In his secret lab in Tokyo, Dr. Hiroshi Tanaka allowed himself a small smile. "It worked," he whispered. "The alien ship tried to fire, but nothing happened. It tried to move, but remained frozen in place." Similar scenes played out around the world. Wherever alien ships threatened, hidden defenses sprang to life, neutralizing them. In the White House Situation Room, President Johnson watched the events unfold on multiple screens. "It's working," she said, her voice filled with relief and pride. "Activate Phase 2. Across the globe, in fields and deserts, mountains and seas, hidden installations hummed to life. They sent out waves of energy that washed over the alien fleet. On the Imperial flagship, alarms blared. "What's happening?" Saxon demanded. "Our systems are shutting down," Captain Zorn cried. "We're losing power." Back on Earth, Sarah Chen appeared on screens worldwide once more. "People of Earth," she said, "the tide has turned. But our fight is not over. Stay strong. Stay united." As alien ships hung powerless in orbit, humanity prepared for the next phase of their plan. They had surprised the Galactic Empire once. Now they needed to press their advantage. In homes and shelters, people cheered and hugged each other. For the first time since the invasion began, hope blossomed. But in his crippled ship, Emperor Saxon seethed with rage. "This isn't over," he growled. "I'll destroy every last one of these insects." The battle for Earth had only just begun. But humanity had shown that they were far from helpless. The Galactic Empire was about to learn a harsh lesson. Never underestimate the human spirit. The skies above Earth were filled with the frozen forms of alien ships, but the peace was short-lived. Emperor Saxon, furious at being outsmarted, had one last trick up his sleeve. "Launch the ground troops," he roared. Suddenly, thousands of smaller ships detached from the main fleet. They weren't affected by Earth's defenses and started descending towards the planet. In the Pentagon, alarms blared. General Thompson's face was grim as he addressed world leaders via video call. "They're launching a ground invasion. Our cities are under attack." Around the world, alien dropships landed in major cities. Terrifying creatures, twice the size of humans and armed with advanced weapons, poured out onto the streets. In New York, Captain Maria Rodriguez led her police squad against a group of aliens in Times Square. "Keep them away from civilians," she shouted, firing her weapon. The aliens were strong, but they were surprised by the humans' fierce resistance. In London, a group of construction workers used their equipment to build barricades, slowing the alien advance. In Tokyo, an elderly martial arts master named Hiroshi Yamamoto surprised everyone by taking down 3 aliens with his bare hands. "I may be old," he said with a grin, "but I still have a few tricks." As battles raged in cities across the globe, Dr. Sarah Chen worked frantically in her lab. "We need to extend our defenses," she muttered. "If we can't stop the ground troops, all is lost." Meanwhile, in a secret bunker, President Johnson met with her advisors. "What's the status of Project Phoenix?" she asked Dr. Tanaka, who joined via hologram. "It's ready," he replied. "But using it will drain all our power. We'll only get one shot." Johnson nodded gravely. "Then we better make it count." Back in space, Emperor Saxon watched the battles unfold. He smiled cruelly, certain of victory. But then something strange happened. The humans began to retreat. "Ha!" Saxon laughed. "Look at them run." But Captain Zorn wasn't so sure. "It seems too organized, Your Majesty. I fear it might be a trap." On Earth, humans were indeed retreating, but in a carefully planned way. They were drawing the aliens into specific areas. In Paris, resistance fighters led a group of aliens towards the Eiffel Tower. In Cairo, another group was drawn towards the pyramids. Similar scenes played out at landmarks around the world. As the aliens gathered, thinking they had won, Dr. Chen gave the signal. "Now," she shouted. Suddenly, the landmarks lit up with strange energy. The Eiffel Tower, the pyramids, the Statue of Liberty, and others around the world began to hum with power. In his lab, Dr. Tanaka pressed a button. "Activating Project Phoenix," he said. A wave of energy burst from the landmarks, washing over the alien troops. To everyone's amazement, the aliens began to shrink and change shape. In Times Square, Captain Rodriguez watched in disbelief as the terrifying alien she was fighting turned into a small, harmless creature. "What in the world?" she gasped. Dr. Chen's voice came over all communication channels. "The energy wave has reverted the aliens to their larval form," she explained. "They're harmless now." Cheers erupted around the world as people realized they had won. Soldiers began rounding up the now tiny and confused aliens. In space, Emperor Saxon howled with rage. "What have they done to my warriors?" he roared. But his anger turned to fear as he saw the energy wave continuing to expand, moving towards his fleet. "Retreat!" he screamed. "Get us out of here." The damaged alien ships began to flee, their mighty empire humbled by the ingenuity and courage of humanity. As the last ship disappeared from Earth's skies, a moment of stunned silence fell across the planet. Then, gradually, cheers began to rise from every city, every town, every home. Humanity had faced its greatest challenge and emerged victorious. They had shown the galaxy that Earth was not to be underestimated. In the White House, President Johnson looked out at the celebrating crowds. "We did it," she said softly. "But our journey is just beginning." For Earth was no longer alone in the universe, and who knew what other challenges or opportunities awaited them among the stars. As the dust settled from the ground invasion, the world turned its attention back to space. The Imperial fleet, though crippled, still posed a threat. Humanity needed to act fast. In a hidden facility deep beneath the Rocky Mountains, Dr. Hiroshi Tanaka stood before a massive computer. This was the heart of Project Prometheus, Earth's ultimate secret weapon. "It's time," he said, his voice echoing in the cavernous room. He turned to President Johnson and the other world leaders who had gathered. "But you must understand the risks. Once activated, we can't control it fully." President Johnson nodded gravely. "We understand, Doctor, but we have no choice. Activate Prometheus." Dr. Tanaka took a deep breath and pressed his palm against a scanner. The computer hummed to life, screens flickering with complex code. In space, the alien fleet was regrouping. Emperor Xaxon, his pride wounded but his spirit unbroken, prepared for a final assault. "We'll burn their entire planet to ash," he roared. But as the Imperial ships charged their weapons, something strange happened. Their systems began to flicker and fail. On the bridge of the flagship, Captain Zorn stared at his console in disbelief. "Your Majesty, we're being hacked." Back on Earth, in labs and command centers around the world, scientists and military personnel watched in awe as Project Prometheus went to work. Dr. Sarah Chen, monitoring from her lab in California, explained to the public, "Prometheus is an advanced AI system. It's designed to infiltrate and take control of alien technology." On screens worldwide, people watched as alien ships began to move erratically. Some fired on each other, while others simply shut down. In New York, a crowd gathered in Times Square cheered as they saw the alien fleet falling into chaos. Among them was Maria Rodriguez, the brave police captain who had fought in the ground battle. "I can't believe it," she said, tears in her eyes. "We're actually winning." But the battle wasn't over yet. Emperor Xaxon, realizing what was happening, made a desperate move. "Divert all power to the main cannon," he commanded. "We'll destroy their miserable planet with one shot." The Imperial flagship's massive cannon began to glow, drawing power from the entire fleet. On Earth, sensors detected the energy buildup. "They're trying to fire their planet killer," General Thompson shouted in the Pentagon war room. "Can Prometheus stop it?" In his underground lab, Dr. Tanaka worked furiously at his console. "Prometheus is trying, but the cannon systems are isolated. It can't break through." As the cannon reached full power, a tense silence fell across Earth. Had they come so far, only to fail at the last moment? But then something unexpected happened. The cannon fired, but not at Earth. Instead, it turned and fired on the Imperial fleet itself. In the flagship's bridge, Emperor Xaxon watched in horror as his own ships were destroyed. "What's happening?" he roared. A familiar voice came over the ship's speakers. It was Dr. Sarah Chen. "You didn't think we'd let you keep that big gun, did you?" she said, a hint of amusement in her voice. On Earth, Dr. Tanaka grinned. "Prometheus couldn't hack the cannon directly," he explained to the astonished world leaders. "So it hacked the targeting systems instead." As the remains of the Imperial fleet burned, escape pods launched from the ships. Emperor Xaxon, his empire in ruins, fled with his surviving troops. Cheers erupted around the world as news of the victory spread. In every city, people poured into the streets, hugging strangers and waving flags. In the White House, President Johnson addressed the world. "Today, we have faced our greatest challenge and emerged victorious. But our work is not done. We must prepare, for we are no longer alone in the universe." As celebrations continued into the night, scientists already began studying the alien technology left behind. Humanity had not only survived, but had taken its first steps into a larger galactic community. And somewhere in the vast expanse of space, a battered escape pod carried a humbled Emperor Xaxon. He had learned a harsh lesson. Never underestimate the human spirit, or the power of human ingenuity. 1 year had passed since the defeat of the Galactic Empire. Earth was a changed planet, buzzing with activity and new possibilities. In New York, the United Nations building had been rebuilt and expanded. Today, it wasn't just Earth's leaders gathering here, but representatives from a dozen alien worlds. Dr. Sarah Chen, now Earth's ambassador to the galaxy, stood at the podium. "Welcome, friends from across the stars," she said, her voice echoing through the grand hall. "Today, we forge a new alliance, one built on peace and mutual understanding." The alien delegates chittered and hummed in agreement. Among them was Zorn, the former Imperial captain who had defected after the war. He nodded respectfully to Sarah, still amazed at how quickly humans had adapted to their new role in the galaxy. Meanwhile, in the rebuilt Times Square, Captain Maria Rodriguez, now Colonel, watched the proceedings on a giant screen. She smiled, remembering the battles fought here just a year ago. A small alien child, a refugee from the war, tugged at her uniform. Maria picked him up, marveling at how much had changed. Across the ocean in Tokyo, Dr. Hiroshi Tanaka worked in his new lab, surrounded by a mix of human and alien scientists. They were studying the remains of the Imperial fleet, unlocking secrets that would propel human technology forward by centuries. "Look at this," Tanaka said excitedly, holding up a glowing crystal. "I think we've cracked their faster-than-light drive." In orbit above Earth, a new space station was nearing completion. It was a joint project between humans and their new alien allies, a symbol of cooperation and shared knowledge. On the station, astronaut Jake Martinez floated next to his alien colleague, a tall, willowy being named Exile. "Never thought I'd be building a space station with someone from another world," Jake chuckled. Exile's antenna wiggled in amusement. "And I never thought I'd enjoy human coffee so much," it replied. Back on Earth, in a small town in Brazil, Yum Joa watched the UN proceedings with wide eyes. Just a year ago, he had huddled in fear with his mother as alien ships darkened the sky. Now he dreamed of joining Earth's new space fleet and exploring the galaxy. In Washington, D.C., President Johnson sat in the Oval Office, reading reports from across the globe and beyond. Earth's economy was booming with the influx of new technology. Diseases once thought incurable were being eradicated thanks to alien medical knowledge. But challenges remained. Some humans were wary of their new alien neighbors. And out in the galaxy, remnants of the empire still lurked, nursing their grudges. Johnson sighed, then smiled. These were good problems to have, considering the alternative they had faced a year ago. Her phone buzzed. It was a message from the lunar colony. Chinese Martian fusion reactor online. Power output exceeding expectations. In Africa, the Sahara Desert was blooming. Alien terraforming technology, shared freely with Earth, was turning barren lands into lush fields. Farmers used hover tractors to tend crops that would have been impossible to grow just months ago. And far out in space, on a small, unremarkable planet, Emperor Xaxun sat in a dingy bar. Once the ruler of a vast empire, he was now a forgotten exile. He stared into his drink, muttering about revenge. But nobody paid him any attention. The galaxy had moved on, embracing the new era of peace and cooperation, sparked by humanity's unexpected victory. As night fell on Earth, people looked up at the stars with wonder rather than fear. Humans and their new alien friends gathered in homes and public spaces, sharing meals, stories, and dreams of the future. In the White House, President Johnson stepped out onto the balcony. The sky was filled with stars and the lights of orbiting ships. She took a deep breath, feeling the weight of history. "We did it," she whispered to herself. "We saved our world and changed the galaxy." As if in response, a shooting star streaked across the sky. But it wasn't a star at all. It was Earth's first faster-than-light ship, embarking on its maiden voyage to the edges of known space. Humanity's greatest adventure was just beginning.